It starts when I walk in the room. I usually do try and bring someone with me to a networking event, but I don't want to bring someone with me to cling to when I've had to go to events by myself, and I have, and it can be very uncomfortable. I am not going to lie. The first thing that I do when I walk into a room is look around. Who else is in the room looking uncomfortable and nervous? Because frankly, whoever that person is going to also be greatly relieved when you go over and start talking to them. So even if you didn't come with a networking buddy, all of a sudden you've got somebody who you can talk to just to break the ice and get that ball rolling. If you are anything like me, then networking can sometimes feel very awkward and even sometimes a little bit sticky and icky because often I think that we have the wrong ideas about what networking is. So, first of all, let's talk about what it's not. It is not something that's transactional. It should be thought of as in terms of creating professional friendships. And so you should approach it just like you would approach creating any kind of a friendship as an adult. So let's talk about different ways that you can network using some of these out of the box techniques that you may not have heard of before. For me, the very first thing it starts when I walk in the room. I usually do try and bring someone with me to a networking event, but I don't want to bring someone with me to cling to, right? I don't want them to be clinging to me and I don't want to have to cling to them. I just want them there for that initial kind of 5 to 10 minutes. And then hopefully they're confident and know some people, just like hopefully I'm confident and know some people. And so we can both introduce each other to other people. But when I've had to go to events by myself, and I have, and it can be very uncomfortable, I am not going to lie. The first thing that I do when I walk into a room is well, very frankly, I will get myself something to drink. So a glass of water or a wine spritzer or something like that. Nothing too alcoholic, but something just to kind of maybe take the edge off. And then I will look around. Who else is in the room looking uncomfortable and nervous? Because frankly, whoever that person is going to also be greatly relieved when you go over and start talking to them. So even if you didn't come with a networking buddy, all of a sudden you've got somebody who you can talk to just to break the ice and get that ball rolling. So now that you're there and you are speaking with someone, you are officially networking. So, what are the things that you should lead with? Well, you should approach it, even though it may be a business get together. I think it can be off putting to ask someone straight off the bat, like, what do you do? Like, what can you do for me is kind of the implication with that. So instead of saying, what do you do? Say, what lights you up these days? What are you working on that you're excited about? What's new in your life? So it may be that they just moved from somewhere, or they just started playing guitar. You don't know unless you ask a question like that. And if you ask a question like that, it may lead to all sorts of opportunities and other ways to connect on a much more deep and human level, which is what making friendships, professional friendships, is all about. So when you're at, like for me, I go to film festivals, film premieres, those kind of things. So obviously, most of the people there are filmmakers or in the film industry in one way or another. So that's kind of a no brainer is saying, what are you working on right now? And if they say, hey, I'm working on this script, or, for me, I'm an actor, I'm well versed in reading scripts. So I could offer, hey, if you need another set of eyes on your script, I would love to read it for you. Don't say it unless you're going to do it, obviously. But that may lead to all sorts of things. And that is a wonderful way for you to give before you take. But of course, you have to be creative, right? There are all sorts of different people at these film events. So it just depends. It may be that they just got a new puppy and you happen to know a fantastic dog trainer. Or it may be that they just took up a new hobby like tennis and you, in your spare time, are also a tennis fanatic. So there are different ways. My thing is always looking for the different ways that I can connect with another person as human being to human being and not profession to profession. Does that make sense? So, because then it takes the transactions out of it. When you get that information, I always feel like it's really important as well. Like once you've gotten information from someone, how many kids they have, maybe the name of their spouse or the name of their dog, whatever it may happen to be, the name of their project, the tennis that they're taking, whatever it is, then give yourself a couple of minutes after you've wrapped up your conversation with them and go whip out your notes in your phone and write that stuff down. Write that person's name down, write those hobbies down, write those connections down. Because honestly, you may have it perfectly in your head at that moment, but once you started to talk with other people, all of those things are going to get jumbled up. So definitely take a sec to write that down for yourself so that you can refer back to it later. And here's another little tip. If they said something that really kind of lit you up or you thought was particularly funny or interesting, write that down too, because that will give you an opener when you reach out to them as a follow up after the event. As an actor, another thing that I always advise my clients is to reach out to projects before they get to the casting directors. So while they're still in development, where can you find these projects? Well, if you're in Europe, there are a lot of funding organizations that will list the projects that they funded. So that's amazingly useful. Even though if you're not in Europe, you can also find a lot of information listed on IMDb, IMDb Pro, obviously, and also like Crew United, which again is a European resource. But these are also a couple of places where you can find out about what has just gotten funding. You may also check out film festivals. Who got a grant, right? Or who won a prize where maybe they got 100 grand to finance their short film. So you can make yourself aware of the film festivals and the grants where they are financing these things, no matter where you are, and reach out to these people. Let's say, congratulations. I just read that you got this and this and this. You are doing a sci-fi film about, I don't know, reincarnation. I just heard a podcast on reincarnation, so it's in my head. And that really interests me. You are naturally reaching out with something that actually sparks your interest. So it's again not just like, I saw you got some money, what can you do for me? It's leading with, hey, congratulations. I would love to help you out in any way I can. This is what I do. You can also host your own networking events. So, this is, I think, often overlooked, but it's something that people of all sorts appreciate. Now, whether this is a mastermind or a quick, like, round table or a meetup or a speed dating, even type of thing, right? Where you've got like female filmmakers and you get them all into a room and you do like mixers where you're ringing a bell like every 5 minutes. So the people are literally mixing it up every few minutes and meeting all sorts of new people. There are honestly 1,000 different ways to do this. So take up space boldly, but respectfully. Lead with your unicorn factors, what I like to call your unicorn factors. So if you're funny, lead with that. If you're smart, lead with that. If you're curious, lead with that. Because I can tell you one thing, the more you ask and are interested in someone else, the more interesting they are going to find you. Don't be afraid to take up that space. You deserve it. It is yours to take. Everything within an arm's length of you is your space, and you are fully entitled to fill it. But also, on the other side of that, be able to read the room. So if people are starting to look beyond you or giving you like subtle signals that they're bored or they need to meet up with someone else, they're getting antsy, be aware of those signals and cut the conversation short before they do. Leave them wanting more, always. Make sure to get a way to connect with them. Another little thing that I do sometimes is I'll take a picture of that person so that I can immediately, put their name, put their face to their name in my contacts list. Because let's face it, when you're meeting 25, 30 people in a night, it can be hard to keep everybody straight. But if you take a picture, and especially like I have a friend who does this a lot, I don't do it so much, but it works really well for her. She'll take a picture with that person and save the contact that way. But then she also sends them the picture of her so that they have a subtle reminder of who she is. And she'll just say something like, I had such a good time meeting you at blah, blah, blah. I hope we see each other again soon, or let's get together soon and talk about XYZ, whatever it may happen to be. So once you've got all those great connections, make sure to keep them warm. A great thing to do when you think of somebody, when somebody just pops into your head, is leave a voice note for them on social media, on Instagram or WhatsApp or Facebook or whatever it may happen to be. People love to get voice notes, and it's a very personal thing. So do that. Just say, hey, you just popped into my head. I had to chuckle about what you said or whatever it may happen to be, right? Be honest and authentic about it. Another thing you can do, and this is brilliant. This came from my conversation with Rena Friedman Watts. You can check out that video here. Is sometimes somebody else's name will come up in conversation. And when you're talking, obviously favorably about that other person, and if it's in an interview or whatever it may happen to be, you can just let that other person know, hey, you know what? You came up in conversation. So it gives you a reason to reach out to them. And it also gives you a reason to connect whoever you were talking to about that person. Say I meet someone at a party and I ask them, what's new in your life? What are you excited about right now? And they say, I'm going on vacation in just a couple of weeks to Barcelona. And I thought, oh, okay. I happen to know someone who lives in Barcelona. And so then I would tell them, hey, I know someone who lives in Barcelona and they are a real foodie. Do you like to go to restaurants? And then if they do, right, that is another point of connection that you can connect with this person. Then the thing to do would be to let your friend in Barcelona know, hey, you know what? You came up in conversation. I just want to say that, you popped into my head. I hope you're doing well. What are you up to? And by the way, I think you might really like so and so. And it's a way just to connect these two and say, hey, while you're in Barcelona, you may want to meet up for a coffee with this person because of XYZ. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. That is up to them. But it's a way to add value without asking for anything in return. Or, obviously, I have a podcast, duh. So a lot of times I'm interviewing people. And when I interview people, a lot of times somebody else's name will come up in the conversation. And as Rena said, clip out that part of the conversation and send it to them, whoever that person was that you talked about, because then that's something that they could use on their social media. And here's another tip for you. If, for instance, you don't happen to have a podcast, but still somebody's name came up, you could not only send them a voice note, you could just do a really quick little video. Hey, I was just thinking about you when we worked on that short film together, and you gave me such amazing advice about how to get into character, or whatever it was. And you send that to them. That is something, not only will it warm their heart, but it's also something that they could literally use for their own social media. So I don't even know how many tips that was, but there were lots and lots of tips in there. If you want to have some seriously expert tips from two of the best networkers that I know, one of them is Rena Friedman Watts. I will link to her video either above or in the show notes. And the other one is the actor Seamus Sargent, who is also an amazing networker. And I did interviews with both of those. So if you want to seriously up your networking game, then you need to watch both of those videos right now. So if this has been helpful to you, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you are listening to this on any one of the podcasting thingies, then make sure to please rate and review it. It means so, so much to me. I read each and every one of your reviews, and they truly make my day, and they make this podcast easier to find for everybody else. So until next time, you stay your bold and beautiful self. Bye-bye.